Back at it again, and finally the pressure got to her, and she had to tell us what she planned on doing. And that is Kamala, of course. She finally has told the world some of her policies, and it is just as bad, actually probably worse than you could have ever imagined. And we're going to be talking about that a little bit today, as well as mainstream media absolutely owning her because of these Looney Tune policies. Okay? I'll just start with this. It's going to cost almost $2 trillion. Yeah, you heard me correctly. Not billion, not million. It's going to cost nearly $2 trillion to do what Kamala wants to do.
Work to pass the first ever federal ban on price gouging on food. Work to pass the first ever federal ban on price gouging on food.
Price gauging? Now, apparently, that's probably easy to stumble over if you're just reading off of a teleprompter. Price gauging? Gauging? Price gouging is the proper word. I want to show you a little bit of what CNN had to say about that, though. Now, the rumor is that folks like Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer are now telling Kamala to be quiet, to go silent about these policies. Don't say anything anymore. That's just a rumor. I don't know if it's true or not, because she's been getting a lot of backlash, and I'll be showing you guys a little bit of that right now. Let's dive in.
Two things. I think number one, she took a lot of far left positions during her first run in 2019 and 2020. She has, temporarily kind of moderated these through some anonymous quotes from aides saying, well, she doesn't really want to ban fracking anymore. She doesn't want to do this, doesn't want to do that. This new program that she's kind of doing is pretty far left. $25,000, price controls essentially. That's number one. But the other thing is, kind of conveniently forgot she was vice president for the last 4 years when a lot of the housing market crisis was at its worst, when inflation was at its worst. So there's a lot of memory holding that. But look, when it comes to the $25K, I mean, you just added $25,000 into every price onto every home price in the country, because if you're giving that away essentially for free, people will add it into the price. Two things, I think.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that folks. I hope that people are smart enough to realize that giving people $25,000 for free because you're a first-time home buyer, it may sound good on its face, right? But first off, nothing is free. That money's got to come from somewhere. But then also, people are just going to increase the prices by $25,000. It's a free $25K if you're a seller. My God. You're just going to increase the price by $25K. Like that's just common sense. But unfortunately, common sense is no longer common. I want to continue on with a segment from Scott Jennings on CNN. Check it out.
She was very effective at laying out just how hard hit the American people have been by the policies of the Biden-Harris agenda. I mean, inflation is the number one issue, food prices, housing costs, the housing shortage. All of that is absolutely true. And she and Joe Biden are in charge. And she has directly cast votes that have led to these conditions. So I don't know how she plans to separate herself from Joe Biden on this, because everything she talked about today, she has a direct hand in. The other thing that I picked up on today was this whole notion that price gouging, or gauging, as she called it, is what people are feeling. That is a total canard. This is not true. This is made up because they're trying to deflect attention from the actual inflation that has caused everything in your life to get more expensive. So they need the American people to believe something other than the truth. There is no price gouging. Grocery stores, these things, they operate on very slim profit margins. There is no gouging. There is just inflation. So to go out and say, I'm going to get the federal government involved in setting prices or capping prices or interrupting the flow of the free market economy, let me tell you something. If you like bread lines, product shortages, black markets, hoarding, if you want to recreate the happy economic conditions of The Walking Dead, Kamala Harris has a plan for you. The bottom line is the Republicans are going to be all over this. It's not smart, and it's a plan from a ticket that has no private sector experience and no interest whatsoever in taking responsibility for everything they have done to plunge the working class of the United States of America into an economic crisis.
I love that Scott Jennings called them out on trying to blame businesses for price gouging, especially grocery stores. Grocery stores, like he said, operate on a very slim margin. I believe that margin is between 1 and 3%. It's not a very profitable business. But then also, the great thing about the economic system that we live in here in America is that if somebody is selling paper clips, I know I'm just throwing out something random. Somebody is selling paper clips for 10 cents a piece. Okay. Now, this is just a scenario. 10 cents a piece, right? And I do my research and I figure out, if I started a paperclip business, my personal cost for each paperclip would only be 2 cents. It only is going to cost me 2 cents to make that paperclip. But that guy over there is selling it for 10, and that's where everybody is buying them. Well, the great thing about America, I can make my own paperclip business and I can undercut him. If I feel like he's price gouging, I'll just sell my paperclips for 5. I'm still making a profit and I get all of the business. So either he has to lower his prices or he's getting no business because everybody's coming to me because I'm half of his price, because I can still make a profit at 5 because my cost is only 2. Like, this whole price gouging thing is just, bro, it's a scam. It's a lie. Nobody is out here. Okay, I won't say nobody. Of course, you will have an outlier somewhere. But for the most part, in large part, nobody's price gouging. Nobody. You'll just get undercut. It's simple. But more importantly than that, it's product and demand. If you don't want to buy something at said price, you don't have to buy it. You can go somewhere else and purchase the same product most of the time, a lot of the times at a cheaper price if you look for it, right? There's different places you can go to buy things if you don't like the price at the place that you normally get it from. Like, we have options. That's the beautiful thing about America. But now you want to cap that price? Yeah. How well has that worked in other places? Ask the Venezuelans how well that one's gone. Okay. But here's another segment from CNN, of all places. I know, I'm showing a lot of CNN today, but they were speaking some facts.
Catherine, I read your piece and I heard you just mention it. The federal ban on price gouging for groceries. You are skeptical of this. Why?
Well, first of all, nobody can explain what price gouging means. It's like that old line about pornography. I know it when I see it. In the sense that, what does it mean to have an excessive price or an excessive profit margin? That seems to be shorthand for a price or a profit margin that bugs me. That seems too high. So, it's very hard to pin down what this would actually mean. If you look at the legislation that, as I mentioned, is already in the Senate, led by Senator Warren and Senator Bob Casey and a slew of others, the particular way that this is written, which is likely to be the template for any proposal that Harris would eventually embrace, is especially bad in that it just bans excessive prices, grossly excessive profit margins, and says that the Federal Trade Commission can use any metric it deems appropriate to decide what that would mean. Which basically says, like, it's not going to be markets, it's not going to be supply and demand that's determining how much your grocery store charges you for milk or for eggs. It's going to be some bureaucrat in D.C., which seems like totally unworkable, first of all, for the FTC to be deciding, like, how much Kroger charges for eggs in Michigan. But it also would be very bad for markets. We've seen this kind of thing tried in lots of other countries before: Venezuela, Argentina, the Soviet Union, etc. It leads to shortages. It leads to black markets, plenty of uncertainty. And beyond that, the specific way this bill is written might actually increase prices because of some of the other language in it. Things like requiring public companies to disclose in their quarterly reports, their quarterly earnings reports, how they're setting prices, which is a great way to help them collude, which normally we don't want them to do. So anyway, the devil's in the details, I guess, for that bill, but it's really hard for me to imagine any form of legislation that preserves the spirit of what she's proposing that would not be, at best do nothing, at worst cause a lot of harm.
At best do absolutely nothing, but at worst cause a lot of harm. I think it would cause a tremendous amount of harm. Because as you heard there, it's been tried already with terrible results. Catastrophic results. Absolutely terrible results. So, the fact that this is even being proposed, I know she's not serious, first off. Her and Democrats, and once again, I think this is another Democrat tactic to try to do everything to win. You've never heard them come out and say all of this crazy stuff all at once. You've heard them sprinkle it in here or there, especially the Bernie Sanders of the world. But to have the Democrat nominee to come and basically propose socialism for America, just flat out, hey, we're going to give you this and give you that, and we're going to keep prices down because we're going to cap it. We're going to have a group of bureaucrats, which that's impossible. So you guys are going to be sitting down 24 hours a day trying to determine prices on everything across the board? What? How does that even make sense? It doesn't, right? And what are people to do in Hawaii, for example? You can't charge the same price for milk in Hawaii that you do in, I don't know, fucking Georgia, right? Or the same price in Florida versus Alaska. There's a cost that is acquired because of shipping. Alaska's a decent ways away. Same thing with Hawaii. It's a decent ways away. There's shipping costs that have to be tacked on to the price of that good, and now you're going to cap it? So basically, the people of Hawaii and possibly Alaska will just starve because nobody is going to be able to make any money shipping the goods out to them because they can only charge a certain amount of money. But it costs X amount to get it to them. But not only did she go with the price gouging, but I'll just play this one.
Often using algorithms in price-fixing software to do it. It's anti-competitive, and it drives up costs. I will fight for a law that cracks down on these practices. We also know that as the price of housing has gone up, the size of down payments have gone up as well. Even if aspiring homeowners save for years, it often still is not enough. So in addition, while we work on the housing shortage, my administration will provide first-time home buyers with $25,000 to help with the down payment on a new home. We can do this. All to help more Americans experience the pride of home ownership and the financial security that it represents.
Great job, Kamala. You just increased the price of every home by $25,000. Great job. $25K. Incredible. But, another thing is that there were some videos circulating around the internet of that rally. And you guys want to guess how big that crowd was? Not big at all. Listen, if I were to guess, the images that I saw might have been 100 people. Maybe. When Trump pulls thousands in places like the Bronx, got a video coming back. I got a video coming on that whole situation coming soon, so stay tuned. But anyway, let's jump back to CNN.
A minute around the corner. For some people, it's already started. They already know what that cost is.
Matt, we had to interrupt you before you were.
I know, and I wanted to hear your answer.
Oh, it was so intelligent. I already forgot.
Well, yeah, it was a great response that unfortunately we had to cut away from. But now that you've heard the speech, what stands out to you as the most clear and effective line of attack that we're likely going to hear from Republicans as a response?
Two things. I think number one, she took a lot of far left positions during her first run in 2019 and 2020. She has, temporarily kind of moderated these through some anonymous quotes from aides saying, well, she doesn't really want to ban fracking anymore. She doesn't want to do this, doesn't want to do that. This new program that she's kind of doing is pretty far left, $25,000, price controls essentially. That's number one. But the other thing is, kind of conveniently forgot she was vice president for the last 4 years when a lot of the housing market crisis was at its worst, when inflation was at its worst. So there's a lot of memory holding that. But look, when it comes to the $25K, I mean, you just added $25,000 into every price onto every home price in the country. Because if you're giving that away essentially for free, people will add it into the price. And obviously, price controls have come under criticism from the Washington Post, Catherine Rampell, whom this channel's talked to earlier. So you're going to see a lot of that in the messaging over the next couple of days, if not weeks, as we go into the convention.
And Julia,
Oh my goodness. That type of stuff will never work. Ever. But once again, I think it's the Democrat strategy to try to buy votes. Hey, we'll give you everything for free. But I do think the American public is smart enough to realize that nothing is free. Somebody's going to bear that cost. We may not bear it initially right up front, and it may sound good up front. But in reality, stuff like that she's proposing, it never works. Price controls does not work. I believe it was actually tried here, what was that, in 71? I believe that was 71, right? Y'all let me know in the comment section. I need to double check on that. But I believe that was tried, price controls, and it didn't go well. Comment below if I have the year incorrect, but I believe that was 1971. Like I said, correct me if I'm wrong. But it's also been tried in other countries. Like I said earlier, look at Venezuela. How well has that gone? We have Venezuelans flooding this country for a reason. If it was so great, they would still be in Venezuela and not here in America. Like, that's just obvious. Right? That's just common sense. Now, like I said earlier, common sense is no longer common, unfortunately. But also, like the gentleman said there, Matt Gorman, if you give people money for a down payment for a home, people will just raise the price. Okay, free money, $25,000. All right, well, the cost of this house instead of $100,000, it's $125,000 now. It's the same thing. It is literally the same thing. That like cancels out. So yeah, it ain't happening. It's not happening. But then also part of the reason why we're in the situation that we're in is because they've just been printing dollars, spending money. And now she wants to propose another 1.7 or $1.8 trillion in spending when we're already like $40 trillion in debt. What sense does that make? That doesn't make any sense. But of course, they don't care. It's all about getting votes. If they destroy America in the process, even better. I mean, it's just obvious at this point. They don't care. They don't care. If we got to print money to get this done, we'll just print it. We'll tell them whatever. Just print the money. If it destroys the dollar, it doesn't matter. That's better for us anyway. Then we could just take total control. Because then they'll all be dependent upon us. They won't even have a choice. Even the rich folks, because their dollars will be worth nothing. So unless they got hard assets of something, right, it's meaningless. But like I said, I think Americans are smart enough to understand that that's all BS. And I think you saw it here on CNN. When you got CNN calling you out and they're propagandists for you, it's a major problem. But as always, y'all let me know your thoughts, your opinions. Stay safe out there. Peace and love. I'm out.